Beautiful. All right. Welcome to today's weird event where we get to be freely expressed in a loving space and honored for our community peoples. So I'll start off by playing a little something something. I invite you to close your eyes as well to really feel into the music. Moment to moment. Moment to moment. The magic is flowing. Eternity in motion. Moment to moment. Is flowing. Breathing into all of one by one. Breathing into all of one by one. Breathing into all of one by one. Eternity in motion. Reality's broken. We see into the open. We are choosing. Seeping into the rise from the fall. Seeping into the rise from the fall. Will you stay sleeping? It's time to awaken and rise, to rise. If you choose it, and you'll see it, you'll remember that you'll be anything you want to be, that you want to be. Welcome, beautiful beings, to this day's event. It is so good to be able to do this with people who are just like me, and I'm just like you. All right, lovely humans, let's get started into it. Drop down some lovely words of encouragement, questions, concerns, emotional outbursts, anything that is on your heart that we can talk about today. And let me go ahead and get us started into my guide. All right. So what do you guys know about the word weird? I'll start there. When people told you in the past, yeah, go ahead, come off mute, and I would love to hear from you guys and see what was your experience growing up when people told you that you were weird. I would love to hear from you guys.
Oh, I was gonna go for the etymology of the actual word. So
No,
never mind.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll explain more in detail here soon, but I would love to hear what emotional attachments you had when you were younger. For example, you were at school and kids told you that you were weird and just kind of bullied you, or if you were bullied, and what kind of impacts that had on you growing up to try and express yourself.
I just tried to avoid being weird because I was afraid as a kid. Just trying to be accepted and all that stuff, you know? And Yeah, no, I mostly kept to myself, especially in high school. Like the energies, I didn't even know at the time, but I was like everything and all the energy and everything was chaotic, so I didn't know how to be myself at all. So I mostly just kept quiet, did my work, went home, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
But I was bullied at sometimes, but mostly before high school. So
resonate. Yes.
mhm.
Linda, I know you
I've
want
always been a weirdo since day one. I have just always been a weirdo. And when kids would call me weird, it would make me weirder. I've always been the
Nice.
kid that picked up roadkill and made jewelry out of bones. I have always been, I don't know, like the freak, so to speak. So
Yes.
I've pretty much embodied it for a long time. And I mean, since I was in elementary school, I had a really cool, like, well, I guess I wasn't really like, we were doing lit, like me and her, when we were like supposed to still be doing like whatever, I don't know,
Yeah.
anyways. But like, I would stay in her class when she had, like, I was her aide or whatever. And we would like talk about random stuff. And anyways, she actually told me about like the whole like Norse concept of weird. And so I have like been like, okay, cool. Well, that's like, I don't care if I'm weird. Like, call me weird all you want. So I've just always been this crazy weirdo. So welcome to my
Yes.
weirdo life.
Welcome. Welcome the
Oh,
weirdo life. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, from my studies, from what I understand, and I resonate deeply, like I've always been a weird one. And in the past, I did get bullied heavily for just coming out and just doing things that were different from them. So it's like the times when they were like, hey, why are you doing these things that are different? Why can't you just do it like us? And I'm like, because I do it my own way. I don't want to do it your way. Like I was the rebel growing up for so long, and I did not want to live. I just wanted to break free from that because my soul knew what was right for me in that moment was to step aside from what this group of people were telling you to do. So thank you so much for sharing. Yes, another meaning that I found for weird was being able to break away as well as welcome one's journey and destiny. So it loosely means to become, and also from the stories of the three oracles of Delphi. They were known for holding over the destinies of the men. So just humans in general. So it's like if and when they were there, controlling people's lives and stuff like that, it insinuated that, they were the weird ones. They had control over like what people did and it's just like as well as themselves. So it's like really taking ownership for our lives and being able to grasp that and just take radical responsibility for our weirdness. And that's something that I've been practicing, and it's a day-to-day practice. All right. So there's a couple different ways that I've used on my own journey to be able to break free from times where I felt a lot of pressure from society to be a certain way. So a lot of the different practices are between breath, I like to call it, and other people do call it the same terminology, is bullshit mountain. So BSMT, that stands for, and I think I told you a little bit about it, Brandon, how it's breath, sound, movement, and touch. And between those four elements, we can actually, whenever we're having moments where we're spiraling and being like, ooh, something's happening to my body, I'm feeling a little bit like there's pressure, or I feel judged, or I feel like, I feel attacked from my external reality and people just coming at me and be like, hey, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And it's like those moments where we really don't want to project our emotions out into the external world. It's like, how can we be able to self-soothe in those moments of, just not feeling safe to go to the people outdoors? Because I know some people don't feel safe to go to their community members. They don't want to burden people with their problems. That was me like a lot of times in the past where I did not seek external help. So it's like in the times where I did not feel comfortable in sharing with the people around me, it's like, what did I do to help me on those times? So breath, sounds, movement, and touch definitely helped me to be able to come back home to myself and break those chains that I was putting on myself as well. So I'm gonna read you a little bit of what that means as a practice, as well as some just meanings of what this practice is essentially. So when we can immerse ourselves in the practices and use these tools when we're spiraling, they have been known to change our state of being. So our mental state, our emotional state, and our physical state, because there are times where we do feel that fight or flight, or I think it's fight, flight, or fawn, I want to say. Those are the three different versions of that terminology. So in
Oh,
those
and
cases,
freeze.
freeze, thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that. Fight, fight,
Yeah,
freeze,
that
or
was my
fawn.
favorite one.
Yes,
Growing up.
it's so true because it's like the times when people like just try and attack you with their words, and they're just like, they're pressing on your buttons. It's like, what do? You just kind of shut yourself off. And man, thank you so much for bringing that up, because there were times where I really froze myself as well in those cases. And it's like, dang. So as I got older and as I learned more about how to break free from that, so breath, it's the different types of, there's many types of breath works styles that you can do. One of my favorite ones is where you the wording, I don't remember what it's terminologically called, but I call it inhale, inhale, and exhale, where you do two sharp, I think it's called box breathing. I think that's the correct terminology, where you like breathe in from your stomach, breathe into your chest, and then you release it really slowly. So that is one of the practices that helps me to just regulate myself whenever I'm feeling like monkey mind or super stressed out. And just there's a lot of things going on, and I feel like the insides of myself is just frazzled. So whenever I feel that way, breath work is one of the biggest practices that really brings us back home to be able to calm ourselves and soothe that sporadicness. And sound. What do you guys know about sound healing and sound medicine? I want to hear from you. And what do you think sound medicine is? Because we can do a little practice on that together.
I mean, I've heard of like sound bowls and such, but yeah, I don't have
All
a lot of
right.
experience with that yet.
All
Yes.
I know is my mama used to tell us, like when I was a kid, like, and we would have fights, or like something bad would happen in the house, or something like, I don't know, something that may be perceived as negative, she would like clap her
Mhm.
hands to like dispel it, like to shoo it off,
Hmm.
kind of.
Oh,
Or
wow.
like sometimes like we snap our fingers, like if we go outside, like I don't know, I used to have to go outside and feed the horses and stuff after dark. And like if there was something like weird or scary around, or I felt like weird vibes, like we
Yeah.
would snap our fingers and like clap our hands and like make weird noises or whatever. And my grandmother like always told us that would like dispel the negativity. I don't know.
It's true.
Stand in
Yes.
your power, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes, sound medicine, sound healing, it's essentially making any noise that makes you comfortable. And I feel like there are a lot of times in society where it's really frowned upon for us to really let out those screams whenever we're feeling frustrated, or whenever it's screaming, being able to hum whenever I get nervous out in public, because in the past I really suffered from anxiety out in public. So in those cases, I used to hum to myself, or I used to sing, and that used to like allow me to be present with my surroundings when I get out of my head, and I'm able to be like, hmm, 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 hmm. It's so calming just being able to just sit there and be in your own world and be like, okay, everything's fine, and reassure yourself that through that music you get to ease up and release that tension. Um, ah, so good. All right, let me go into my next one. It is movement, my favorite piece. So movement is so good. You're able to physically move through different fight or flight responses, especially when, because you feel it in your body whenever like you're suppressed, even with sound, whenever you know that you're not speaking your truth, your throat starts to close up, and you can feel like the emotion of like, oh, there's something I gotta get out of there, and you can't speak exactly. So sound is good to release that tension as well as movement. When you use the sound healing, the breath healing, and with movement, there are times where I gotta return to that practice and be able to just come back home to myself. So whenever I just like allow your body to move with no judgment, that's a big piece. Like it doesn't matter what you do as long as you just gotta shake it off or you gotta move really weird like and just gotta be goofy with it. That's my favorite part, to just like moving through like physical, energetic blockages in our body. When we're able to just let that shit go. And it sometimes looking like it throwing a tantrum in a safe space where if you don't want to do it in front of people. And the first time ever, like months ago, I really tried that practice of being able to be in that self-guided intuitive movements. And that really allowed me to be like, wow, I can do this and not have people be like, oh, you're throwing a tantrum. Like, that's so bad. Like, you know, you're a kid for nah, no, no, no. When we released that self-imposed beliefs, people told us when we were younger we couldn't throw tantrums, that we couldn't be allowed to speak like, hey, you really, I didn't like the way you spoke to me that time, or I didn't like that you talked badly about me to that person. And it's like those emotions stay harbored in our bodies, and those stories really show up whenever we're like trying to express ourselves. And it's like, hey, like I'm gonna give you an example. Like in the past, I had a lot of trust issues. And the trust issues showed up as whenever I had new connections or new friends, it's like I didn't trust myself to speak about certain situations that were bothering me whenever I was going through like abusive relationship or just different bad things happening. I harbored that in me. And I noticed how not me speaking up showed up in as health problems, not being able to get out of bed sometimes just because of depression, which is really suppressing your expression, and being able to not speak on parts that really bothered me. And then I suffered from eczema as well. And eczema, what they teach you is it's whenever you allow things to get under your skin and you're not releasing that. So that was a big, it blew my mind, because it's like every time I chose not to speak my truth about an issue I was going on, it would appear as eczema and or rashes or like pimples and stuff like that. It's like certain times where it's like, hey, you know, I can just sit here and harbor all these things I'm not going to talk externally about, and they showed up as that way. So body movement, being able to go through those different actions of just, because you'll feel in your body where it's stuck, like your stomach a lot. Like they say when you get angry, you feel that in your gut. And that kind of reminds me of the times where it's like, where are you not listening to your gut reactions? Because your gut will always tell you where you need to go in life, and they will always guide you to the right answers that you're seeking. So when you don't trust your gut, that can show up as like I don't know what it's called, but I know it's like stomach issues. I think it's like bowel. Do you know what you know what I mean? Like the bowel.
IBS,
Thank you so
irritable bowel
much.
syndrome. Yeah.
Irritable, yes. So when we have like a lot of anger issues that we don't deal with, they can show up as irritable bowel. Like that's what they explained to us in our hypnotherapy training. And all of this stuff was like, holy shit. Like I had no clue that how it really affected our bodies to really hold on to certain emotions that weren't serving us. And they show up in different parts of our bodies. I don't know all of them yet. I may not know all the whole thing, but the ones I do know is anger shows up in the belly, and whenever you're feeling suppressed, it's either the chest or it's the throat. So either of those
That
two.
explains a lot. Yeah, makes a lot of
It's
sense. My dad represses so much anger. He's had stomach problems for decades, and it makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, and it is sad, and it is a choice that they get to choose by not being able to be vulnerable to share that with his family or share that with other people around him that could have supported him. So it's like my heart goes out to the people that don't feel open to share, and at the same time it's like we can share, like we don't have to share with the people that we know are the cause of the issue, but we can share to the people that can't support us in those transitions. So all right, what was my next practice that I felt Sharon like? Let me show you. Okay, the last one is touch. touch is so important because I'm gonna go into a real quick story. So in the past, um, I was a very needy girlfriend, and it showed up as not giving myself the touch. It's like, hey, I just need a hug. I was the type of person who was like, I always need hugs. I need some type of like I feel like in the Spanish culture, we talk with our hands and we are very like touchy-feely people. So it's like at times when we're not giving ourselves that like self-soothing touches where it can show up as neediness and being like, hey, I need you. Hey, and like you're just putting your power externally from yourselves because it's like if you're not focusing on that self-love and being able to give yourself what you need, then it's gonna pour out through you into different scenarios where it's like, oh, why are you always asking for hugs? Why are you always like, can't you do this yourself? Like, and you'll look, it's very conflicting to have other people be like, I can't be there for you. And it's like, oh, you can't be there for you. And then you put blame on the people. And I'm speaking from personal experience. So I used to put blame on people for not showing up for myself when I didn't do the work to show up for myself. So it was very, very conflicting. And it's so good to know that goals now that we can take these practices and be able to give ourselves what we need. So tapping and EFT tapping, it's so much more than just being like a simple tap, tap, tap. It's more so in the scientific of it where it helps with like anxiety and it helps with a lot of what's the other word I'm thinking of? EFT tapping, that is good for overwhelm. So whenever you're feeling overwhelmed and like or just you feel like a panic attack is about to happen. I know like some of us really do go through this. You're able to just sit in a controlled space, really tune into yourself. And some places you can use to tapping is they say the start of the eyebrow, you tap right here, and you have to tap to like 5 to 7 times. And then you also use words of affirmation to really ink that into yourself. So if you're feeling anxiety or overwhelm, you can be like, I am safe in my body. I'm feeling loved. I am safe to express myself. And you do that through I know it's certain points of your bodies that you have to do it in. So it's like the start of the eyebrow is one, your temple is one, the bone beneath your eye. So you're like right here where your bone starts. And then the area between your nose and upper lip is another place where you can actually tap. And then the crease of the chin. So like right here as well. Another few parts is the crown of your head. That's a good spot, especially if you get headaches. You're able to tap right here and just be like, my mind is expanding or whatever feels right. You don't have to follow any type of specific wording, but whatever you feel your body needs in those moments, you're able to tap at the crown of your head or even your heart. My favorite tapping method is really tapping into my heart and just being like, hey, we're okay. We are saved, we are loved, we are cared for, we are cherished. And it's so good when you're able to just like tap into your heart because you're literally tapping into your heart. That's the best
What's
way.
the tapping called again? Is EFT? Is that what you said?
EFT, yeah, it
Okay.
symbolizes emotional freedom technique. So it's a way to be able to break out of certain beliefs or yeah, definitely do some research. I invite you guys to do some more research on that because I know just the surface, but I know it works. There's many cases where I went to different circles and communities where they're like the magic of touch. It really allows you to get back into your body because like I said again, there are cases where we're in that flight, fight, or freeze or fawn response. We're externalizing our world and everything is out of control. And how we can gain back control is really being able to come back to our bodies. And people are like, well, how does that really work? You just, when you're home in yourself, that's the safe space. No one else can break away from that safe space if you're okay. And it's so good. I'm so passionate about that topic. But yes, tapping EFT is emotional freedom technique, and it allows you to break free from those emotional like heaviness. That's it's so good. All right. Another piece, which I'm super passionate about, and it's a very new practice for me, is hypnotherapy. So hypnotherapy has been The biggest practice that's allowed me to dive into the depths of my subconscious and understand who I am and where I've come from. It's given me a lot of permission to really break free from those old holds of the past and bring me back into awareness of what I'm capable of overcoming from my own past challenges and integrating the lessons of my past experiences. So, in certain, what is it called? The sessions I've taken with other mentors is, ooh, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. So the piece of unworthiness, I feel like that's really big in today's society where we don't feel worthy to do the things that we want to do. And with hypnotherapy, you're able to see where the root of the unworthiness piece is. So for my case, it was I felt in the past unworthy because um, my dad, used to tell me I wasn't good enough, or like he didn't feel good enough himself because, he was beaten from his own dad. And it's like this whole line of being oppressed for being a Black man and not believing that he can live up to America's dream and all this stuff and be like a loving family and all that stuff. So he projected a lot of his like fears and traumas onto me, where I thought it was real in me. Really, it was like his own demons that he passed down for me to really see. And I'm like, ah. So with the hypnotherapy sessions, and the biggest practice that has helped me is emotional change technique. So it's how to change certain emotions from feeling unworthy to really breaking free and being able to see that self-love and self-compassion and really accept ourselves from what we had to go through to be here today. So the cases back then was really, can I love my dad for the trauma he put me through? Can I forgive him? And there was a lot of forgiveness work that I had to sit down and deal with because it's so heavy. Um, and it takes time. I want to stress that so much. It takes a lot of time to really be able to look at the past traumas that we went through and really be able to be like, okay, can I use the tools from this experience to really help fuel me in my future and where I'm heading? And it's the times where I see like, oh, the unworthiness piece is playing out. It's like, okay, I see you unworthiness. I know where you live in my body, and I'm not going to let you control me from what I'm doing in the world today, from the change I know I'm capable of. So it's a lot of conversations with ourselves that we get to have and ask deeper questions through hypnotherapy. And it's so good because it's like, I know where you came from. I know the origin of where this lives and where this has like affected all my relationships, all the experiences that I've tried to overcome. So I invite you guys to ask the deeper questions to yourself whenever you're going through hard shit. Because I know a lot of us does, like, we're always going through hard shit. And it's like, how can we come from a place of expressing our needs to the people that we love and really just around us? How can we express ourselves to be like, these are the boundaries I'm holding for myself, and I need you to understand that. And boundaries aren't just, oh, like, it took me some time to understand the difference between boundaries and self-preservation mode. Oh man, like there the times where I was like, oh, boundaries just mean I can close myself off from the world forever and not have to deal with people. And my whole fantasy was like moving to the mountains, not dealing with people, and just being in the woods and just doing my weird shit. But really, that was a self-preservation mode piece where it's like I didn't want to confront the places and parts of myself that wanted to really breathe and like come through. So self-preservation shows up as not showing up for your own needs and really speaking to your community. Because like through this learning of really setting boundaries, it's okay, I need you to understand that, these times I'm not available and I can't be talking all the time, because I was very much a people pleaser where I used to talk to my friends all the time, 24/7. Every second of the day, I would prioritize messaging them first instead of tapping into like, okay, should I be investing my time into all my friends, or should I actually be focusing on the dreams and passions that I have for myself? And boundaries really look like, okay, we will set aside a time to connect with all the people that we need to, and then a certain time, I'm going to come back home to myself and really be like, okay, this is what I need right now. And the needs are always different. It's not always going to be the same where it's like, oh yeah, I'm in need to sleep every time, every day at this certain time. And that's it. It's like one day you'll just need a really long hot shower. And sometimes you'll need to go outside and have some good sun. Other times will be like, okay, I need a nice hearty meal so I can feel nourished. And, just certain things like that. And it's like, it's different each time where it's like a cycle. And the cycle is always like a wobbly looking weird. It doesn't have to be single straight line, because if life was a single straight line, then it'd be boring. So there's got to be some
There
wiggles.
are no lines. Yeah.
There are no lines. It's all wobbles.
Lines don't exist in nature. That's the whole thing, right?
I was watching this documentary about yeah, I think it was like on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it, how they're just going in and showing the different parts of nature. It's like, yeah, there's so much patterns, textures, smells, tastes, everything in nature. It's like a whole variety. And it's like if everything were the same color, what's
exactly. And who's to say what's not allowed to exist? What, everything's allowed to exist, like that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yes. And welcoming the weirdness is welcoming the variety of life and the different experiences we get to go through. And it's being like, I'm gonna have this flavor today. I'm gonna try it out. And I'm gonna get deep in this. So even like we're all spirits. We're all spirits. And these bodies are just the goddess's bones. These are her like blood, and this is what she uses to like gift us life in this like physical reality. So it's like we're only trying out these meat suits for a certain amount of time. So it's like one of my favorite, and this is some tea. So one of my favorite rememberings is that each lifetime is a new outfit that we get to try on. And we shouldn't take that so literally where it's like, okay, I don't like this meat suit, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off into another one. Nah, because we'll come back and we'll like relive those experiences and the failures, because there's no failures, there's only feedback. So we're going to come back and experience the same feedback than what we left behind. So that's a big piece on suicide, and I feel like that topic is not talked about enough, where in the past, like, I thought that was just an exit strategy, and I always seen like suicide as like, oh, it's super easy, let's just go ahead and just choose to do it over again. And then it took some remembering that, choosing the easy way out just means that we're going to come back and have to do it again. Same story until we break free from that and reach the next level of our evolution. So it's like, yes, we get to come back each time and try out different suits and different stories and different timelines. And it's like so important to remember that every single timeline is important for us to really reach our full potential. Otherwise, we're just, once again, gonna have to come back and do it again. That's like I love that topic so much. And then dream work, people. This is something new in my life that I am actively exploring, and I want to share a little bit more on dream work, on what that is and how that relates to the relationship with ourself, and how we can really decipher understanding the messages from our soul self, our unconscious, our subconscious, to be able to tie in all the different pieces of our higher selves, because it's not really just one self, it's multiple iterations of ourselves that really get to breathe through that when we dream. So dream work, as you all may already know or may not know, it allows us to travel and unravel the language of our unconscious mind to listen to what sits neglected in our emotions. Because our dreamland is associated with water, we are essentially diving into the sacred waters of ourself. And being able to dive into those waters, it comes with, there's 5 different type of categories of dreams that I've learned about. Because it can shift. They're not always going to be the same, where you're always going to have premonitionary dreams. You're not always going to have like telepathic dreams or nightmares. It's all going down different cycles depending on how we have certain emotions harbored in us. And I'm gonna dive into what each category of dreams really has as well. So with the 5 different types of dreams, the first one is lucid dreaming, where you can control and be aware of your dreams, and you can decide what you want to dream before you sleep. So example, like if I say like, oh, I want to go, and I have some really wild dreams where I just dream of the same places and I always go back to certain areas. And that makes me think of like, okay, the place we return to in our dreams really holds a significance depending on the feeling that we feel of them. So if we feel safe in parts of our dreams, like if you're in a naturey forest area, or you're in a building and it's like, I feel this place feels familiar and it doesn't feel murky, it doesn't feel scary, it feels like a good place to be. Those places I've noticed really are safe havens in different journeyings. So like I don't what is the word I'm thinking of? It's like what is it called when you're safe from disasters? Like you have a bunker between places. So
Yes.
those had to wait for that one to come through. So certain safe areas that we return to in our dreaming are really just the bunkers of our experience, because there are times where we do have nightmares, and I'll get into more details about what nightmares actually are. And the bunkers of the dreams, I would love to call them as lucid dreaming, where you get to call in that space and go there. And they're always going to be like, oh, it's just enclosed. It can be like a free worldedness where you can get to explore different angles and areas. I remember one dream where there was this cabin and I kept going back to it for some reason. It looked exactly the same, just more stuff in there piled up, like as if it was empty and then being filled. And it's like, okay, what in this space is like, obviously that's tied to my emotions. So why do I keep piling up stuff in this certain space? So in those spaces where certain things were piled up and I didn't realize what each item was, but I know that each item was a story that I was holding on to, and it kept piling up. And that place was all like just that safe haven of, okay, what do I need to look at this time to decipher? So I know that place has popped up so many times, and still to this day, I'm like, because we never fully 100% know what our dreams mean. We can only get big pieces of what certain things mean. Because if one of the quotes by, not quotes, one of his studies from Carl Jung, who's also known for dream interpretations, he spent his whole life studying dreams. And he talks about how the certain, oh, where was it? I'm searching for it. Certain places that we go to in our dreams, they really lead us, and with the detail of those certain places, we're able to decipher it, but we really have to sit with every single detail of to be able to understand that, because it's like, oh, cabin, search up cabin, what that means. And it's, just, you know what I mean? So, and you can look at your dreams as like a wide overall understanding, and the more details you're going to find within them, it just will lead you to what situation you're trying to overcome and what obstacles you're facing, depending on, the certain details. So that's a little bit about lucid dreaming. Let me go ahead and, okay, the next one is premonition. Yes, you know what I mean. Premonitionary dreams are similar to telepathic dreams, is that your spirit leaves your body and ventures on a voyage of discovery. So they are special because they reveal future events and allow the dreamer to see truths that are not accessible in the waking life. So we can also detect information about imminent events. So premonitionary dreams are essentially deja vu. If you haven't already
Nice.
known. Yes. So certain cases where, trying to explain. Okay, yes. Like from one of my past experiences, and last year I had went to a festival, and one of my intentions that night right before dreaming was like, guide me to the people that will have an impact on my journey, that will be a portal of experience to allow me to see something within myself that I know is capable, but currently I'm not seeing that. So that dream, I was dreaming of my old house and some random lady was in my kitchen. I didn't ask. And I was like, hey, like something told me to ask her about her life story as the first thing to say to her. Like, don't be like, hey, what you do in my kitchen? Like, get out. Like my first like impulse was to be like, tell me your life story. I would love to learn from you. And she was wearing this like purple cloak and she had like beautiful brown hair and like this really chiseled like goddess looking face. And I was like, when I woke up, I was like, did I just talk to a goddess? Like, what is this? And that whole image of seeing her and sitting down at my table and really having that conversation with her like stuck in my dream. So when I went to the festival, I was like, okay, I'm looking for someone in a purple cloak. Where are you? Where can I find you? And it ended up being I found this person who was actually friends with one of my friends. And purple is just the color of royalty. And it's intuitiveness as well as power. So I didn't know that back then. So I thought I was looking for someone with purple hair, or maybe their favorite color was purple. Really, it was someone who knew their power, someone who was living in her power. And what that looked like was she was fully expressing herself. So I met her, and her face was very similar to the face I seen in my dream. And I was like, whoa. And the biggest piece from that interaction was we didn't sit down at a table. It was stand up tables where you just like grab your drinks and you just like stand and drink and whatever. So we were just standing there and talking, and then I just felt the wind rush in, and I was like, "Ooh, this is that moment. This is that moment of from that experience, from that dream." And the first question I asked her after like pleasantries and getting to know each other was like, tell me about your life story. And we were so freaking similar. And I was like, universe, like you're just guiding me toward these people, from being able to call that in from the night before in my dream and hold this intention of what I wanted to attract the day after. So the person I met, she was doing the things I wanted to do that I didn't have, I didn't believe I could do. And she was just there encouraging me. She's like, do not fucking stop what you're trying to do in the world. Because I was in your shoes. And when I didn't have that self-worthiness to be able to achieve those dreams, let me tell you. And she just shared her experience. And it was so beautiful to just meet someone in their power and know what they were capable of, and understand that inner strength was constantly putting into practice their passions, chasing their passions, whatever it looks like in each like obstacles or challenges that present themselves to us. So ah, it's such a beautiful example of like how powerful our dreams can really breach through to the waking life, for premonitionary dreams. So the other category is telepathic dreams. So these ones are very special because I don't feel like a lot of people talk about how telepathic dreams, you can actually communicate to other people in the dreaming land. It's like, yes, you can speak to people that aren't alive anymore, or, like I have like dreams where I always like talk to my parents. And for those that don't know, my parents are deceased. So, and it's like you get to make peace when you see people that aren't living anymore, and someone else, I can't remember who I had a conversation with, but they said, yeah, I had a dream about my dad and another buddy I had. Oh, I can't remember who it was. I'm not gonna let it bother me. But yes, I do remember. Okay, so there was this person at my job, and he was telling me about how his father had passed away and his buddy had passed away in an accident. And then they kept showing up in his dreams. He's like, hey, I'm dead, right? And he's like, no, you're not. You're standing right there. He's like, no, I'm dead. And it's like they were just having a lovely conversation. And just he really got to make peace with that, about his dad passing and about his friend not being able to see him anymore. But it's like when he wakes up, He said how he just felt peace knowing that he got to have that interaction with not being able to hold them in the waking and being able to see their faces all the time and really have that experience that they used to share with them. And with his dad, there was like trauma there. So he got to make peace with them in the dream. And it's so important because like those cases where it's like we don't see the person anymore, it's like, how can we make peace with that? And it took me a long time to really be like, okay, mom or dad, like I see the situations in the dream how they unfold, and it's like, okay, I forgive you for those cases or scenarios and the times where I didn't feel loved because like you were in your own shit, you know what I mean? Because I feel like as kids we forget that parents, like we put parents on a pedestal and we're like, oh, the almighty, yes, they gave us life and we owe them that. We don't owe them nothing. They bring us into this world, and it's like I feel like today, so that society, we're really breaking free from being able to no longer have that unhealthy tie to our parents, where we
Yeah.
can be sovereign beings and we don't have to live by their example. We can live by our own examples, our own mistakes, yes, and our own
Yeah.
inner learnings.
The best way I've heard it is like your kids come through you, but not for you. I think it was Wayne Dyer who said that. And it's like,
Ah,
yes, definitely. Definitely.
it's so good. And I got lost in that, and I know a lot of people do too, where it's like, my dad's telling me to do things. He's telling me to be a carpenter. I want to start my business, and he don't believe in me. And it's just the cases go on and on, essentially, where we feel entitled to owe them something. So being able to make peace with that, and when those dreams show up in the dreaming land, where it's like, okay, you feel your parents like putting all this pressure on you, you're able to be like, okay, is this for me or is this for them? And from really looking at what's being pressed onto you, you can be able to be like, okay, that's not what I want for myself. So telepathic dreams, you can communicate to people between the living. So like in my cases, I have friends who message me and be like, hey, I had a dream about you last night. I was like, oh yeah, what was I doing? And the most powerful one that I am going to talk about was very recent. One of my friends messaged me last week and she's like, yeah, I had a dream about you. She said that you had this bracelet and it was power. And it's a bracelet where you can have special powers. And because you believed in it, I believed I could have that. I could have that too. And that bracelet appeared on me, and I had magical powers. And I was like, see what happens when other people are in their power and they inspire them to really be like, hey, you're a really inspiring person, and just because you did the thing, I believe I can do that thing too. And that's essentially what I told her about. And she's like, holy fucking shit. So how the symbolisms of our dreams really take place, it's like being able to look at those experiences as well as those interactions, because it's not just like, yes, our experiences, but it's important to remember that certain people are in our dreams. How are they us? Because I know in my parents' case, it's like I seen where their tendencies, their traits were alive in me. And it's, we can't just always see it as external. Like, yes, there are certain premonitionary dreams that come through for us to realize. And we should also look at where are their habits and tendencies are alive in us, because that's what our dreams are always telling us. It's like, because it's a reflection of our inner world. So it's like whatever's in our inner world is going to breach the external world. And the times when, like, oh, I'm sharing so much from my heart right now because it's so needed. So one dream I had, and this happened after me and another sister did a emotional release between the masculine, and how the unhealthy masculine shows up as, you know, being ruthless sometimes, being like they don't care about the world and just want to be like, oh, I'm just here to do the thing. And just like meatheads essentially, where it's just like, so we did a emotional release technique. And the night I fell asleep from that experience. I had a dream where I met this guy, and it was like the environment was like a post-apocalyptic place where it's like it was just all barren. Everyone was scavenging for food. Like all there wasn't many people alive in the dream. It was just like a handful of people, and I remember myself thinking like, wow, this is what's left in life. And I remember we found, I was with my tribe, and we found a person, and it was like this bear man, and he was just there hiding under a tarp, and he looked broken. And he kept saying how I lost everything. I have nothing to live for anymore. Like this is what life is, and I'm just gonna stay here under the tarp of darkness and not move. And then like as I got to know him in the dream, I really became to understand that this person needed help, and I needed to guide him to the light, or to really see that there was more to life than just hiding under a tarp and allowing that to be the end of his days. Um, I also remember how close he came to jumping off a cliff. And I was like, I held on as tight as I could. And I was like, no, there's more, there's more to life than having to jump off and, just end your life. And I remember when I embraced him, I felt the sacred union of my inner masculine, because my inner masculine kept holding on to the stories of like when my parents passed, I thought nothing else was left for life. So it was a reflection of where was I inside the stories of my inner masculine. My unhealed man was essentially hurting, and he
When did that
believed
dream happen?
earlier this year.
Okay.
I want to say January, February, March. January, February, March. It happened in March. So it was
Okay.
very recent, and it took me some time
Interesting.
because, yeah, I woke up and I was boggled, and I didn't understand. Like that dream was just so fresh on my mind throughout the rest of the next 2 or 3 days. And what essentially happened is the darkness took over him, and it meant that the darkest part of my inner masculine had to die, and towards the end of the dream he was reborn into the light. So it's like, yes, the alchemy happened, and I was like, this is so fascinating that the process we did the day before, the night before, was essentially the aftermath of the healing that took place within me. And how it was wild. It essentially, it's wild. So certain dreams will have the greatest impact on what we've done to get there. So like in that case, I had to go through that process to release that, to release the pain he was feeling. And it took a while to really integrate that knowledge, because I was like, oh, sometimes we try to bypass certain meanings of our dreams. It's like, oh, that could have a meaning, but I'm not going to listen to it. Like I was that person in the past where I didn't listen to those cases. So it's so important to realize that telepathic ties that we have with other versions of ourselves that teach us so much when we're sleeping. So let me get into the last few pieces. Ordinary dreams, as you know, they are just recollections of events throughout our day to day. It's like whenever we're like watching TV and we just absorb different images, and they're going to show up in our dreams. And it's kind of like a mixing of different pictures and different sounds of different like things that we've witnessed the day before. So those ones, you can decipher them. I would recommend just to witness them, because there are times where it's like, oh, I just seen this the day before, and that must mean I have to be on this path and I must take this action. I just welcome you to be like, okay, this is an experience I had, and I'm allow that to be. And if you feel called to decipher it and feel like to look into it and be like, okay, there's a deeper meaning here, then feel into that. It's all about leaning into the intuition of where we're feeling called to look at. Anyways, that's the fourth piece. The last one are nightmares, and I really want to talk deeper on nightmares and what they mean, because my internal revelries have come from nightmares. When I was younger, I was plagued with so much nightmares and I didn't know what they meant. And yeah, like zombie apocalypses, just seeing so many demons in my dreams and having to constantly fight and go on journeys of running away. I always felt like I was running away from something in my dreams. And it's like, where was I running away from myself, depending on the certain symbolisms of that we see in our dreams. So zombies really mean when we're feeling dead inside, or we feel like there's no life left in us. And it's so heavy because I'm talking about like years I had dreams of zombies. So I like to call the days when I experienced that or my sleeping days where I wasn't awake to my reality. I was just living in this with blinders on to the matrix, and I was constantly plugged in all the time where I didn't open up, I didn't look side to side, I didn't ask for help. I just kind of kept to myself and I was like confined in my own cocoon of like self-sabotage essentially. So nightmares are a wake-up call. I'm gonna stress that again. Nightmares are a wake-up call because they are essentially telling us what are we neglecting towards looking at an experience we're not wanting to release. So they are suppressed original fears commonly created by the excessively strict parental or sibling moral standards and the threat of punishment in the face of innocence. So it is a warning to listen to what you're neglecting, and a nightmare may also relate to old unsolved problems that is also frightening to face, that we are unable to continue in a dream. So that sometimes we wake up from nightmares right before we're about to hit the ground or we're about to like essentially die in the dream. And I've had many cases where I'm about to die in the dream and then you wake up. It's like, what are you not wanting to change in? Because death essentially just means change. It means being able to let go of a certain part of yourself. So whenever you're about to die in the dream and you wake up prior to that, it's like you're resisting change. That has been my greatest experience from nightmares. And whenever you're able to really confront those nightmares and be like, okay, I see you, demon, in the corner staring at me. What you gotta tell me? And it's like ask those fears. And Carl Jung also talks about in his different dream interpretations and analysis with different people, how whenever they're having nightmares, they always wake themselves up prior to. And there was a couple people that actually stayed to confront their dreams, how liberated they were, and how like you just feel lighter when you wake up because it's like knowing that you face that challenge, and it really ties into being able to develop yourself, your mental strength, your mental like how can I solve my own issues from your dreams. So being able to pay attention to them has really allowed me to learn from myself and my own inner stories essentially. So it's so good. All right,
That's awesome.
I'm about to send you guys into a lovely meditation where we're going to connect to ourselves. So I want you guys to do a quick practice. Take your hands, put them out, and I want you to rub them together really hard until they get really hot and tingly. And I want you to breathe into your hands. And I want you to hold that breath in your hands. So with the breath and with your hands, and I invite you to close your eyes as well to feel into your own touch. All right. So when we practice being present with our breath, we can increase self-awareness, boost immunity, confidence, and self-esteem. So being able to feel the loving, simplistic touch of our breath onto our hands, we are allowing the air within us to touch our creative power. All right. So take a moment to simmer in your power, to feel the union of your breath and freedom, to bless your hands, your creator hands, to build and create the life of your choosing. I want you to play with this. All right. So I want you to sit with music, and I invite your minds to drift away for a bit. I want you to forget where you are, all the worries before you join this class, and sit in a little creative voided space. I want you to imagine your hands as paintbrushes, pencils, or tools that help you to build and create the life of your highest excitement. I want you to play with this and invite the space of how you can tune into being your truest self. In this creative void, what do you think is possible in this space? What do you want it to look like, sound like, taste like, smell like, and feel like? What are you welcoming into this space? If you stood in front of the key to your most liberated self in this space, what do you know you will have to do to unlock what's awaiting you on the other side? Once you have that, I want you to anchor this in the attention and intention you put behind the words you use to create a ripple effect. Fill you with the inner knowing you knew was always there with or without your conscious noticing. I want you to imagine yourself zooming out of your physical body, standing or floating in outer space. Imagine witnessing galaxies forming in the distance, a bright, glowing portal of vibrating, shifting colors, creating textures and shapes and the swirls you can't even describe. Yet you recognize you've seen before. This portal before you is the gateway to seeing into your greatness. Are you ready to witness all that you can accomplish? I want you to reinforce yourself with all that you, your ancestors, your cosmic conscious self, with all the strength and patience and love it took to get into the here and now to succeed. To be all that you came here to be, with an open heart and willing mind to rise and shine in this timeline now. Right before you step through the portal, I want you to take a moment to release all the stories, the layers and ties that your ego has prayed over, that's prevented you from being free, whatever version of that it'll be. It could look like self-doubt, worries, not being understood, fear of not being heard, being suppressed and oppressed in the past. I want you to say thank you, the lessons of your shadows, the unworthiness, the not good enoughs, the should've, could've, would've's, and for all the lessons it taught you. To be able to unlock your fully multi-dimensional conscious self, to be your version of living liberty. limitless possibility and excitement. And when you feel ready, walk through the portal, step inside, and you can repeat after me, inside. I am the greatest mystery in the history of existence. I listen and say yes to the inner call, to be brave and courageous, to breathe life into my purpose. I summon back my power to be the change I choose to see and be in the world, to ignite hope, transformation, inspiration, to have a positive impact on my communities for the greater good of all, to be of service to ourselves and others selflessly, honoring my needs and those of others, trusting my soul's higher purpose and participating in the soul work I came here to do, casting the seeds of our hard work, teamwork, and being in balance with the planet and myself, to grow, to birth, to bloom into legacies. We know that we can create worlds and we can destroy worlds, and we can integrate them and become the best of both worlds, a fully balanced, harmonious being, where we always get to listen through love and come from our grounded, sovereign self. We accept our destiny and the path only we are meant to walk. Now emerging and standing before our paradoxical divine nature, we see with clarity who we came to here to be. I want you to remember, take as much time as that you need. And when you open your eyes, when you're ready, you will feel grounded deeply in your inner knowing. So mote it be, so mote it be, so mote it be. I would love to hear in the comments how that felt for you guys.
I was feeling a lot of stuff.
You were
Dude, yeah, like my consciousness, like I felt out of my body a little bit too. Not even gonna lie, like I was
yes,
feeling some things happening. It was interesting.
yes, Minda, how did you feel?
Definitely very calm, tranquil. That's what I was looking for. That's what I always need. So, you know, I feel like, we were looking for what was inside of us already. And I mean, I know that it's there. It's just really hard to unlock sometimes. So,
It's a journey of unraveling.
yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
all right, my loves. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I think I'm going to end the recording here so we can freestyle. All right. Thank you so much for those who are catching the recording. I would love to hear some feedback from you as well. And yeah. All right.